Hockey Inside Out, presented to you by the Gazette.
We're back with another episode of Hockey Inside Out. Happy to have Chris Nilan back with us this week and Dave Stubbs. Coach Michel Therrien is spreading the tough love around a little bit. Alex Galchenyuk, the latest player to be benched. It seemed to work though, Chris.
Yeah, well, you know what? He took a stupid penalty. He was struggling a little bit on the ice, and the coach sat him down. And God forbid coach does anything nowadays to discipline a player. It's like, oh, you know, he shouldn't be in fear of disciplining a player. And I think guys worry that, you know, players or the team will turn on them if they do something like that. And, you know, nowadays, I mean, thank God Galchenyuk didn't say, the coach is bullying me. Oh, good on him, though. He bounced back and had a great game the next game.
It's hard to believe he's 19, Dave.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's a kid who is learning as he goes. I mean, every single shift that Alex Galchenyuk is playing is another day in the classroom. So, yeah, it's interesting, Chris. You mentioned that about a guy being benched and the reaction to it. I was at the game and watching the Twitter sphere literally explode. People, is Galchenyuk hurt? You look down on the bench, you see him sitting beside George Parros. He sat there pretty much for the rest of the third period, never got his skates on the ice. But you know what? I mean, Therrien said afterwards, this is part of the maturation process of a young man. He said, we want this kid to learn. We know he's going to come back from it. He's not going to crawl into a hole and feel sorry for himself. He'll come back and he'll be better, and he was.
Well, you look at one of the best coaches who has coached in the game of football for so long, and Bill Belichick. Stephen Ridley has fumbled this year, I don't know how many times. He's a great running back. Last game, he was standing on the sidelines in his sweatsuit, holding the ball the whole game. and you know,
and not dropping the
ball. Come on, it's like coaches, they have to be able to motivate, teach, be able to coddle guys. They got to be able to push guys, but God, you know, it's all part of the whole process.
It's accountability, Chris.
It's how the player takes it. I mean, some guys, they're so sensitive, like, oh, you can't say a thing to them. Or some guys you can be a little tougher with, like PK. You know, you know, I'm sure at times it might get to him, but he's a guy who can handle it.
He seems to thrive on it. Maybe Denny Coderre should have just sent a tweet about
Believe me, he had nothing to do with it. Denny Coderre, like I said, should worry about the wheelchair ramps in this city.
David Desharnais, what's he doing now that he wasn't doing before? Chris?
He wants the puck. He's skating. He's not getting pinned in the offensive zone as much. Anytime he gets in a one-on-one battle with a guy, and it's a physical battle, chances are he's going to lose it. If he gets in there, gets the puck, and moves his feet, he doesn't have a chance to get pinned. And that's what he's doing in the offensive zone, neutral zone, and coming out of the zone. He wants the puck. He wants it. There was a time here when he was struggling. It looked like he didn't want the puck, and when it came, it was like,
the stick.
Yeah, he was so nervous. He was thinking about it. He's got his game back. I'm so happy for this kid. Max, the whole line, and Gallagher being there, it's awesome.
Well, being paired up with Max Pacioretty is a huge thing. There's been talk that teams are calling the Canadiens about Max Pacioretty. Yeah. Should Marc Bergevin even think about trading him, Dave?
No. I mean, how do you move a guy like Max Pacioretty? He is freshly signed, essentially. He's 2 years into his contract now. He's at a full season. And you know what I mean? Pacioretty's a streaky guy. He has always been a bit of a streaky player. And he went through the front end of this season and he was struggling, and Max takes this game very personally. Some people figure these guys just let stuff roll off their backs and they don't think anything about it. Well, Max was stung badly by his own lack of productivity, and he was also stung badly by the fact that his good friend David Desharnais was being absolutely slagged. When you have the incoming mayor of the city saying, give this kid a one-way ticket to Hamilton, I mean, Pacioretty was really upset about that. He was genuinely peeved. He was really, really mad about it. And you know what? He's responded. David Desharnais has responded. Putting Gallagher on that line, it's really interesting to watch David Desharnais actually play with a little bit of Gallagher style. He's going to the net. There were a couple of photographs that were taken that I saw on the wires after the game a couple nights ago, and he was slamming into the crease. He was driving into Marty Brodeur. He was doing the things that he has to do. He has to get into the dirty ice, and he was doing that.
One of the names that's been brought up, Evander Kane. What would you think of an Evander Kane for Max Pacioretty?
I wouldn't. You know, honestly, I think nothing of it. How's that?
Let's cut into the chase.
Well, Douglas Murray fought John Scott in Buffalo. Is he courageous or is he stupid, Chris?
No, he's got a lot of courage. He's a team guy. It was awesome that he stuck up for Jonta there. It's about time. I mean, Jonta been taking a beating since he's been here. He always gets the extra punch in the head, and when they had no muscle in the lineup, he had to take it. You know, everybody would come in, but no one would settle any scores. Murray comes in, and I got to tell you, I was so proud of that kid, being a team guy that he was, to do what he did. I only wish when guys fight this guy that they take his strength away right away, and that's his right hand. If you tie him up, you got to take his right away and then pick your way through the fight. You can take his reach away if you tie him up and you get in tight on him. Now you have an advantage on a guy. And a lot of guys, I went back and looked at Thornton's fight in Boston when he fought him. He grabbed him by the shoulder. Hello, you're looking to get knocked out. This guy's a dangerous guy. So you got to fight smart with this guy. But Murray, for sure, showed me he has a set of big ones doing what he did.
Could you have taken John Scott?
You know what? Who knows? I tell you one thing, I wouldn't back down from him, and I would go after him if he hit one of my players like he did Brian Johnson.
I like watching Murray play too. He's actually brought something to this hockey team. He's a guy who's big, he's wide, he's not fast. I mean, I kind of joked that wide, yeah.
Extra wide.
I kind of joke about the fact that you know, you look at Douglas Murray and you're going to time one of his sprints with a calendar, but you know what I mean. Beyond that, I mean, he's getting in the lanes, he's blocking shots. There was a sequence toward the end of the first period against the Maple Leafs last Saturday. 2 seconds left to go. Nazem Kadri's winding up on the power play. Looks like he's got a pretty good shot, a pretty good lane, and Murray gets down in front of it. He was still flexing his hand after the game. So he's a guy who's actually giving you some useful time out there. He's big, strong, powerful. He's not going to necessarily crush guys into the boards as much, but what he's going to do...
He was flexing his hand after the game to get ready for this.
Yeah,
come on,
or because of the boneheaded questions being asked him in the dressing room by the media.
We'll be back after a short break. We'll have a Knuckles knockout, and we'll talk about some of the real funny stories from Chris's book. We'll be back after this. Chris has been, his new book, Fighting Back, is out. He's been at some book signings recently.
And then the uplifting part of the book at the end is my redemption, and my journey was full of potholes. Life isn't easy. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the National Hockey League. I thoroughly enjoyed my time here in Montreal, my second home.
Chris, how are you? How are you doing? Listen to you every day. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, all the best. All right, love you, buddy. Be good,
There's some great stories in there. One of my favorite ones is the day you and a teammate sort of, I won't say stole, but borrowed the Stanley Cup for a little while.
Yeah, myself and Lucien DeBlois, you know, we did a time up in his hometown, and we're taking pictures, and I told him, we got to take this thing, you know, we'll never get a chance again. You know, what if we never win it again? And we didn't. So we ended up taking it. I went to visit Lucien's dad that day. He was not too well. He was living at home at the time, so he was in tears. Brought it home to my family, his family. It was awesome. I think that was the last year they did that. You know, they did it. They used a promotional tool. They started to give it to the players.
You threw in the back seat of his convertible or something.
Yeah, I was taking a picture. I had up like this. I was taking pictures all day, so I did do my duty up there for Molson because it was a Molson function. And I just had it up like this. I took that last picture and I turned and I ran, threw it in the back seat, and off we went.
That's what awesome. You know. You're saying you threw it. That tells you all you need to know about the Stanley Cup. It is the trophy of the people, right? I mean, you can never imagine the Super Bowl trophy or the World Series trophy, which is god awful looking. You just can't see a trophy
Poke
like
someone's
that.
eye out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you just can't see a trophy like some of these others in professional sports being treated like that. And that's one of the things that scandalizes some people, where the Stanley Cup is treated like it's a football almost. It's just sort of booted around. It's been drop kicked into the Rideau Canal. It's been left on sidewalks in Montreal hundreds of years ago.
Been sat in.
Exactly. Yeah, babies. That's right. I mean,
drank from.
Eating breakfast cereal out of it. But I mean,
rocket fell with it. Remember?
It absolutely dented it. That's right. Yeah,
put the big dent.
Now, who's going to say anything to the rocket?
No one.
Not a soul. No.
Now, you grew up. In your book, you talk about growing up in Boston. You hated the Habs when you grew up, right?
Oh yeah, I hated the Habs. I mean, come on. I was a Bruins fan, and they could never beat the Montreal Canadiens, and it was frustrating. as a fan and as a kid from Boston, and you know, eventually Knuckles ended up with the Montreal Canadiens, the hated Montreal Canadiens.
And now Claude Julien is talking about the fact that he used to love the Canadiens growing up in Gatineau and north of Ottawa, and the Canadiens were his team because he didn't have the Senators. Now, being with the Bruins' black and gold blood in his veins, he hates the Habs. So
I would venture to say he hates the Habs and maybe the Devils too.
yeah, it could well be.
Well, you took a run at Guy Lapointe. Was it Guy Lapointe you took a run at your first scrimmage?
Yeah, I hit him. Steve Shutt took exception and give me a two-hand to chop me, and I chopped him back, and you know, he was like shaking his head, and like, I was just a young kid, I didn't know, I didn't care, and you know, when I got to Shutty's age, I realized why he was mad.
Hey, Derek Sanderson, right, when he started with the Boston Bruins, long before that, when he was 10 years old, he was snubbed, not intentionally, by Jean Beliveau, and he wanted an autograph outside of Maple Leaf Gardens. 10 years later, when Sanderson turns up, he's playing on the ice at the Montreal Forum. He sees Jean Beliveau behind the net. He says, you know, the guy didn't sign an autograph, and so he slugs him. And the next thing that he saw was John Ferguson coming 100 miles an hour down the ice trying to jump over the net to kill Sanderson. He said, look, he didn't sign my autograph. So,
well, Turk was probably had his hand in his pocket trying to get his wallet. So I don't blame John.
Probably
right, John?
Yeah, yeah. And John just kept looking at him saying, what are you doing, kid? Like, what is this?
The Canadiens have been on a bit of a roll recently. Alexei Emelin, when he's in the lineup, they seem to win. Is it a coincidence, Chris, or what is it that he brings to this team?
You know, he just brings that physicality that they so desperately need. That's why this team got bigger this year, because they were smaller, they weren't physical, they were a fast-skating team. That was their identity. Now they have a blend of that. Now they have guys who are going to be here for a long time, like Emelin, yeah. Murray, is he going to be here for a year? Who knows? Prust. Paros, you got guys that can give you that style of game. And the Canadiens, like I said, they so desperately need it. As long as these guys apply that and do what they do best, it's going to help this team.
What I'm looking forward to seeing is going to be the reaction of Montreal Canadiens fans and Canadian hockey fans generally when Alexei Emelin is using his body to advantage against Team Canada in Sochi. Everyone loves the fact that he's throwing his weight around now. But
it's a big rink.
It's
a big rink, right? So it takes a little away.
Yeah.
But and he can skate too. But the thing about this kid, and you know it, he throws bone-crunching body checks. Checks that when he had Matt Molson against Buffalo the other, that Matt Molson almost wanted to go in, take his equipment off, put his head on a pillow, and call his mother and say, "Mama, Mama, why'd you make me play this game?" I'm telling you, that kid, he hurts when he hits.
Yeah. And there's sort of one classic highlight reel hit per game from him, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's always one, and you hear it from upstairs. The 7th floor press box, you will hear the crunch of body on body, and then you see the guy picking himself up, sort of shaking his head, trying to knock the cobwebs out. So yeah, he's a massive hitter.
Better to give than receive.
Now, Carey Price looks like he's going to be the Olympic goalie. He's been playing great. But Zach Fucale looks like he could be the goalie for the World Junior team, also the Canadian second-round draft pick this year, Dave.
Yeah, Zach Fucale is going to be a very interesting story, and Canadiens fans may remember 2007 Carey Price. Price was playing with the Tri-City Americans in the Western Hockey League. He went to Team Canada. He won the gold medal playing for Canada at the World Juniors. He came back. He finished off the season with Tri-City. He won the best goaltender of the CHL. Turned pro, wound up going off to the Hamilton Bulldogs, anchored the Hamilton Bulldogs to the Calder Cup, won the Butterfield Trophy as the MVP in the playoffs. Then he joins the Montreal Canadiens. So he was the only one who's won the World Junior MVP and then won the CHL goalie and then won.
Not a bad performance.
Yeah, so like he's a terrific goalie. So I mean, there's certainly some pedigree there. It's not to say that Zach Fucale is going to duplicate.
Yeah.
Replicate. Let's try
And
that again.
duplicate.
Duplicate.
And replicate.
Replicate. He's not necessarily going to replicate what Carey Price has done, but still, here's a kid who certainly has a very strong upside, and the Canadians like that depth in goal.
Now, you're lacing up your skates. I hear you're headed up on a tour with the old-timers?
Yeah, I get all the good ones. We're going up to Sudbury, you know, the 15-hour bus trips and stuff like that.
Is Emelin playing
Be
again?
nice to play. Be nice to play one here at the Bell Center, you know.
That's another episode of Hockey Inside Out. Chris, thanks for joining us. Dave, we'll be back next week with a new episode.